Hi, good
Everyone.
evening. Anand, how are you?
Fine, sir. So, to our audience, I would like to tell you that we have got Mr. Shiva Perugotla from Brilio. He's a managing director, CISO, CISO, and CIO of Brilio. So, I will just briefly introduce
No,
Mr.
actually,
Shiva.
I'm the CIO now. I'm not a CISO. You can just say Siva Perubot. Like, you don't need to introduce Brilio. Maybe I think you can go by the the text that I've given. I've given you some.
Fine, sir. I'll briefly introduce Mr. Shiva. So, Shiva is a strategic technology executive with more than 25 years of global leadership experience, driving enterprise scale IT transformation initiatives. He has a proven track record in building high performing teams, scaling IT operations, and crafting digital first strategies across diverse industries. His expertise spans key areas like practice and capability building, strategic solutions, cloud and infrastructure transformation, digital employee experience, cybersecurity, Gen AI innovation, IT strategy, program governance, and technology innovation. Welcome, sir, for today's session. So,
Awesome,
this
my pleasure. Yeah.
thank you, sir. So today, you know that it is about usage of AI in cybersecurity. So let's begin with this simple question of how AI is streamlining cybersecurity operations through automation.
All right. So, Anand, even before going to the automation and cybersecurity and AI as a topic, I think as you know, AI is, you know, everywhere. Everyone is talking about AI, right? So there isn't any industry or a domain which is not actually not
Yes,
impacted by AI at this point of time, right? I think if you look at cybersecurity, AI is going to be and is already playing a very significant role, right? Not about automation on many aspects of AI, right? So basically, it helps, particularly in a machine learning, and it also offers significant potential in how we can defend cyber defenses. We can strengthen cyber security defenses with AI. They can also automate. We can also automate a lot of threat detection, incident responses, and then predominantly, how do you do the left shifting of the activities, and then self healing kind of activity, workflows can be initiated as well, right? So if you look at, and it has a two sides of AI. One is, how AI can be used to gain more benefits, and the second one is it's a double-edged sword, right? It also, while it empowers cybersecurity professionals and then at all through the ranks, it also helps, the malicious actors in the industry, right? And still it's in a journey, since a lot of AI models are evolving, machine learning models are evolving, and then people are actually, industries are looking at, how to use this. One is accuracy. Sometimes actually, it also can, uh, by as a false negative, actually it can also can actually, a software, a malware can be categorized as software as well. So it has a both sides of the equation actually we need to look at. So when particularly looking at automation as a theme, right, I would
yes,
look at, one is threat detection and alert
yes,
triaging. That is the biggest aspect. So how it will help, right, in three areas. One is basically it can recognize the patterns. Basically, it will look at the historical data, look at what kind of anomalies, patterns that is recognizing, and it can move. We can move away from traditional, very rule based, pattern recognizing aspects. The other one is, when it comes to security, particularly if you look at SOC, the attack surfaces are very huge, right? Vast attack surfaces. The number of alerts, and then which are going to come into the SOC or anybody in the level one teams are humongous, right? And then on top of the number of alerts that are coming in, there's a lot of noise around this, right? how do you filter this noise, right? How do you ensure that you prioritize alerts so that you focus on the potential threats than everything that is there, which is not. So that's where AI can help, because of machine learning, it can read tons of data or large amounts of data, I can say, and then based on the historical learning and then what actions you took, it can prioritize alerts so that you can focus on what is needed, right? That is the second one. And the third one is, it can also trigger some workflows, right? Basically, if you look at, you are seeing a very unusual network traffics, or there is a suspicious user behavior. Hey, some person is actually logging in at various places at a given time. Sometimes people use VPN, and sometimes actually, if at all, identity got theft or whatever it is, right? So AI has this power of actually triggering the workflow or events. You can go and block certain things and then kill some processes, etc. Right? So in that way, that is one aspect of it. And then if you look at the other one is the incident responses,
Yeah.
right? The incident responses is the big thing. See, right now, if you look at the cyber security and then a lot of focus on cyber security, uh, and then the talent is lesser, right? You have a very minimal talent, and there is a lot of awareness around cyber security. A lot of universities are um, providing courses around cyber security, which is not the case, probably 5 years ago, right? However, right, the growth that industry is having and the focus on the cyber security, the talent is an issue right now, right? So in that way, the repeated process. So cybersecurity is all about various, sometimes false positives, sometimes real incidents. You got to have a methodical way of, how do you respond to an incident, right? So AI can do a better job at it, right? So human sometimes actually you have some kind of guidelines and may miss the bus at times. Actually, go to a different wrong direction. Whereas AI can put together your steps in terms of based on the historical data, what kind of incidents that have been responded, how they've been triaged, right? How they've been acted, right? It can be a big help in incident response area. And the other one is it can also automatically remediate certain things, right? You can, without having a manual intervention, right? Whether it is infrastructural one, or you are a database guy, or you are a cloud SME or app SME, right? Without having these interventions and escalating, right? AI can go and then remediate certain things. So that is another aspect of, when it comes to automation of AI, right? Look at vulnerability management. Vulnerability management is a big thing, and then vulnerabilities can happen if you have an estate of your apps, infrastructure, your endpoints, and then a lot of data that is there, right? So, and now actually you have an LLM models that are coming in. So the it's a vulnerability management a big aspect, and then a lot of these things are very dynamic in nature, a lot of softwares, and then so every day there are tons of patches being installed, etc., right? So human perspective, you go and then monitor everything and keep on updating, is going to be a challenge, right? So in that way, if you look at vulnerability management, it can look at what kind of vulnerabilities a server is having, a VM is having, a database is having, or your code is having, right? And it can also take your threat intel coming from the industry or threat intel feed, and then match everything, and then see automatically go remediate, right? Or go and ask the operator, go, hey, can I go and do this? I see this vulnerability. Rather than figuring it out, there is a vulnerability, you send a manually update to somebody, and then they go and validate everything, and then after 72 hours, sometimes there is 0-day vulnerabilities. You just need to act on a priority basis. So that is another big area I think AI can have, right?
Great.
So, and the other one is threat hunting, right? So threat hunting is, again, it goes back to the talent. You got to know the tools. There are various tons of tools that are available from a SIEM perspective, or a SOAR platforms perspective, right? You have a bit of a time that you take. The learning curve is going to be high in terms of people learning that, and then this is a very basic threat hunting is okay, but complex incidents, how do you actually go and then do the threat hunting? For that, you got to analyze a lot of data that is there. You got to go back to a lot of historical data that is out there, and then it also need to detect patterns that are available, right? And it also need to flag any activity that is there is a malicious activity, that's something you do. So basically, right, proactive threat hunting is one area probably AI is going to help. I think we see some of the trends, actually initial trends, right? And the other aspects I can look at is in future, right, while it is still not what do you say? It's not common. Probably in next couple of years, you got to have, or you're going to have a self-healing systems. AI can look at if there are misconfigurations in the security. You don't need to go back to the keep on going in this. We can see a lot of tools are providing. It can provide the intel. Hey, your security score is XYZ. To do this, you need to perform ABC actions. So there's a lot of SOPs that are being there, but now it will go to the step ahead or step above, and then it will automatically self-heal rather than giving recommendations to the engineers, right? So that is the next step in AI that is going to come. So, and also we need to look at some of the aspects when we say automation, right? While the SOAR is the best thing that is there in the industry, you got to figure it out. How do you ensure that? See, AI is good, particularly if you look at your two or three types of AI we are talking about. One is basically you are talking about how AI can automate through the workflows. Second thing is agentic, and third one is now the MCP is the new protocol that is coming in. Go and then talk to various apps and then talk about it. But how to use, when to use, is important, and what kind of a AI model or method that we need to use is very, very important in my view, right? So for that, particularly the workflow triggering, you want to be very, very clear in terms of, what are your specific pain points, where AI need to provide intelligence, and then actually act upon that so that you have a use cases listing. Because sometimes AI can tend to go wrong. When it comes to cybersecurity, you are trying to solve a problem. You got to be, absolutely 100% accurate, right? You can't go anything wrong in that area. So the other one is, see, AI can work well, but it's also is garbage in, garbage out. So means what? So AI works predominantly on the data, right? So the fundamental thing that the people need to look at is how accurate is your data, right? So if your data is not accurate, you're going to have a lot of issues around that. I think people need to focus, the teams need to focus on how do we create data. It needs to be very clean and then accurate, right, to AI function probably. So these are some of the things actually I look at when it comes to automation. And it also helps, you are an L1 guy, or a SOC analyst, you're sitting there 24/7. You have huge number of attack surfaces you need to monitor, and then tons of alerts coming. AI can help to navigate through this alerting mechanism. It can reduce the fatigue of the. So see, when it comes to fatigue, right? Sometimes you really miss a real incident.
Yes.
Sometimes you block 1,000 things. 1,001 which is critical for you, probably you miss. It's not an intentional one, right? That's where AI can be very, very helpful in my view, right? So it also helps the SOC efficiencies, right? Like I said, you can build a lot of knowledge base. It can create a lot of SOPs for SOC actually, so you can go and then repetitively how you can solve your MTTR in terms of solving some of these issues can be much quicker, right? So basically, you are empowering your team on the ground, right, with AI. So in a nutshell, right, from automation standpoint, right, it's a force multiplier, multiplier basically, right? In a nutshell, it's a force multiplier. AI is going to be obviously human needs to be in a loop. It's going to be collaborative. It cannot be without human intervention. Actually, nothing can work, right? It's very, very important. The second one is it also reduces the burnout of the folks actually and the third one is it improves efficiencies, and then it enhances effectiveness, right? So these are the key takeaways, in terms of automation, I can say. Yeah.
That's a great insight, sir. Actually, you have covered most of the things related to SOC efficiencies, SOAR platforms, and then automation. Next, let us look at a few challenges due to use of AI in cyber securities. Major challenges. What major challenges you feel will be using if you use AI in cyber security? Like
Uh,
cross-functional impact of using AI in cybersecurity?
See, challenges, I think some of them we touched upon, right? See, like I said, um, first of all, there is a lot of dependency on the data and the quality of the data, right?
Yes.
And then you also need to look at your storage costs and then where you keep this data, right? That's going to be a huge thing. And then how do you ensure that you clean this data and provide a quality data? That is the one thing, right?
Okay.
And when it comes to AI, right, at times explainability, right, which is nothing but, a lot of times what AI does, it is a black box stuff, right? You got to know how the algorithm is working, how it is acting, right? It cannot be like, um, because particularly when it comes to your acting on a cybersecurity incident, right? It cannot take a black box approach. That's one thing actually we see an issue. And the other one is the bias, right? So your LLM, the
Yes.
data that you keep on feeding, if at all it has some kind of biased data, then obviously there's fairness is going to be questioned, right? So that's something actually we need to look at. And at times AI can misbehave, right? There may be an adversarial effects, because of AI. While it does a lot of things well, for example, it may even say sometimes it may classify a malware into a software, right? It happens, So these are some of
Supposedly,
the things actually challenges we need to look at when it comes to AI in cybersecurity. But having said that, there's a lot of other constraints also you need to look at. It's a evolving model, right? If you look at cloud initially, right, the cost of cloud is also higher, right? And so when you start getting leveraging, right, the AI more and more, your cost is going to be reduced. So at this point of time, in my view, the overhead in terms of computations and then the is actually higher, right? I think so. Hence, what happens, right? Your ROI, you need to wait for some time. You can't look at instantaneous results and ROI, right? So there is a time that you need to bake in when you are actually investing in the AI, right? So I don't recommend to look at overnight what do you call overnight ROI over here, and then because of AI investments. The other one is the attackers can also use AI in a much more efficient way. In fact, it's like a typical game of your antivirus versus the threat actors. Sometimes they're ahead of the game, and then they keep actually their arsenal much more sharper. I think that's where I think we may have an issue. And obviously, we talked about some of this trust and reliability, right? The black box approach that we talked about, right? How do we ensure that we can fully rely on the AI models? I think I can see I keep using some of the AI models, particularly in terms of data classification or some of the recommendation it gives, because still actually some of the players in the industry, a lot of these recommendations, whether it respects vulnerabilities, an incident, there is an issue or a security scorecard, I think more they are tilted towards their own product, but it is not taking the whole landscape that is there in the customers backyard, right? So basically, it is giving very very specific to that particular product. I think it needs to mature a lot. I think that I see some of the issues related to the AI. Yeah, but having said that, it has a lot of impact on the cross-functional, right?
Yes, sir.
When it comes to security, it's not about cyber security team does everything, right? They have a dependency on infrastructure team. They have a dependency on a applications team. They have a dependency on a data team, right? They have dependency on legal, human resources, right? Your risk and compliance team, right? So if you look at all these things, right, AI has a lot of cross-functional impact, right? If you look at operations standpoint, a lot of patch management is already automated. It's vulnerability management can be automated when it comes to IT. Then how do you configure the system, right? First time right? How do you go and then configure the system right? I think engineers don't need to struggle. Actually, you tell actually what it needs to configure. It can go and then make things happen so that your first time right and then configuration accuracy can be better when it comes to IT operations. And then it's going to be much helpful in your risk and compliance area, GRC area, right? If you look at how do you monitor your compliance in an automated way, how do you assess the risk, right? Your reporting can be much better with AI. There are a lot of tools in AI. Basically, you feed the data, it can provide a lot of visibility to your governance team or leadership team, so that that is a big area, right? And if you look at other cross-functional finance, right? In a longer term, if I'm a CFO, I look at how do I reduce my investments in cybersecurity investments, right? Rather than linearly while organizations grow, your attack surfaces grow. You can bring in non-linearity into the picture through AI, so that you don't need to keep on investing in humans, while humans can focus on complex problems and then analyzing the data and giving, so that you don't need to have a linear teams keep building, right? And legal, obviously legal can benefit a lot, right? Legal is there in almost every major incident that need to be involved. Legal is participated in that. So they get a lot of insight from AI in terms of data privacy, how to respond to an incident again, how do you track compliance, right? And what kind of policies you have. You newcomer in the organization, irrespective of any of these functions, right? What kind of so the other thing is your learning and development awareness perspective, right? Various policies, procedures that are there, so you can spread awareness across. And if you look at executive leadership, the whole posture of cybersecurity, how the AI can be adopted, it is going to be becoming a critical thing for executive leadership as well, right? And if you look at development teams, now they are using a lot of AI tools for automated code development and then security and all those things. So AI is helping a lot in development areas. So developers, at least, we can look. I'm not looking at a productivity gain. They are becoming more and more efficient because there is intelligent insights coming either from not only from a coding aspects, the vulnerability aspects. What are some of the do's and don'ts in terms of while coding, which will have a potential and actual security impact or a threat. The way that they've coded, they're connecting to your data, how they've written on APIs, etc. So it's a huge boost for developers, right? And then obviously a lot of business units can benefit as well, right? So in a nutshell, uh, AI and cybersecurity, its impact is, like I said initially, I talked about. It's not about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, it is a cross-functionally it impacts, right? It impacts, and it is at this point of time, is what I can say.
Great, sir. So you covered most of the aspects related to cross-functional impact, like legal, finance, HR, everything. Thanks for that, sir. And then now a simple question, like you said, there is a dearth of talent related to cybersecurity. So according to you, in order to, let's say, to gain expertise in this area, what do you advise to the newcomers, like beginners?
See, in my view, I think cybersecurity is something it should start from schooling, in my view,
Okay.
right? So like programming languages now it's part of the school
Yes,
curriculums.
yes. True.
I think cybersecurity needs to be part of school curriculums. I'll tell you why. Right, there are multiple things. Your mobile is a platform or a AI tools everywhere, anything, right? That a lot of teenagers use, right, and then school children use, right? And not only that, so there are two aspects of it. One is actually you will have more awareness of how and where is do's and don'ts of these platforms, how you can be really trapped into certain things actually where you shouldn't
True.
be while using them. There's a lot of risk in using many of these apps, and then you can see a lot of WhatsApp based threats, people calling and then getting threatened, and then they're being cornered and then demanding many things. So okay, cutting short that, so ideally there are two aspects of it. One is students get more awareness. Second one is you also see this as a path, and then world is emerging, and then cybersecurity is a big area, right? So they will have better career paths, and then they
Clear
can choose.
options also.
Right now, it's mostly coming in graduation, and then
Masters.
graduation. That is also started probably 3-4 years back, 2-3 years back. I think it's
So,
it is getting more popular now. But
yes.
I strongly recommend cybersecurity aspects
Cool.
as part of the school curriculum. Yeah.
Great idea. In fact, that's a great idea because Chinese have already started. Yesterday itself, I read the news that they are trying to implement AI into school curriculum. In fact, very
Yeah.
initial years itself, sir. So with that, along with that, they can add cyber security too, so that they can learn
Absolutely.
how to
Absolutely.
be safe. Yes, sir.
It's very
Be
important in
safe.
my view.
Yes, true, sir. That's a great this interview we have.
Thank you. I hope this is helpful. But
Yes,
yeah, I mean, thank you, Anand, for your time. Yeah, I appreciate it.
you have got most of the aspects. Very, really wonderful, sir. In fact, thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Have a good one. Bye bye.
have a good time, sir. Bye, sir.